we've declared war on work as a society, all of us. It's a civil war. It's a Cold War, really. We didn't set out to do it, and we didn't twist our mustache in some Machiavellian way, but we've done it. Innovation without imitation is a complete waste of time. And nobody celebrates imitation the way dirty jobs guys know it has to be done. Your iPhone without those people making the same interface, the same circuitry, the same board over and over, all that, you know, that's what makes it equally as possible as the genius that goes inside of it. So we've got this new toolbox, you know. Our tools today don't look like shovels and picks. They look like the stuff we walk around with. And so the collective effect of all of that has been this marginalization of lots and lots of jobs.
Currently in America, the land of free enterprise, it is part of our national ethos to relegate the production and services to others. The apprenticed and specialized working class who manufacture the goods or provide the services are viewed as of lesser importance, almost to the point of being deemed undesirable. America's income inequality is currently at its highest level since the Great Depression. In 2007, the top 10% of the population earned a striking 49.74% of the nation's income. The top 1% received an astounding 23.5%. Economically decimated, will the blue-collar, middle-class individual lose his political voice, social relevance, and access to a comfortable and commensurate wage?
I had no ambitions when I was young. The reason I'm moving in the business is because that's what I started. That's how life is. You start something when you're young and you start getting paid for it, you get stuck in that. I've done this for 20 years steady, and my mind says I can, but my body says I can't do a lot of the things that I want to do. And so I have to find another employment of some kind.
When you're a carpenter, you know, your number one tool is your body. That's what's going to get this done, even though we got nail guns and things like that, and our, you know, science does make it a lot easier. You got to take care of your body being a carpenter. I mean, everybody always says, I'm not going to be doing this when I'm 50. I'm not going to be doing this when I'm 60. And then they're doing it when they're 50, and they're doing it when they're 60. So you got to take care of yourself.
To like the lawyer types and that type, I tend to see that they kind of look down on it, but I just have to laugh at these people because they have no idea who I am, what I'm doing, and all the stuff that I do. I do get this feeling that they look down at you.
There's long-standing cultural biases in the United States about blue-collar and service work, and it's funny. I mean, we pride ourselves on being an egalitarian, democratic society. And certainly in many ways we are, but we still hold to a lot of these biases, and they go far back in the Republic. The distinction between blue-collar work and white-collar work. The distinction between work of the hand and work of the mind. In school, the difference between the academic and the vocational track. And on it goes, these kinds of oppositions, these binaries that we carry in our head, and they are loaded with implications about status and intelligence. We think that people who work with their hands are just not as bright, you know? I mean, that's just a cultural prejudice. All these different kinds of biases and screens that we carry with us, they're not always that conscious. They're not always that conscious. It doesn't make them any less real.
So system stratification, I use this diagram of a pyramid because what system stratification suggests are that there are hierarchies that generate rank and order between and among people. There's a distinction made by some systems of stratification in regard to social class that suggest that there's the middle class and then there's the working class, and that they're two different classes. And some argue that the difference between the middle class and the working class is a matter of a college degree. And most of the times, if you look at tradespeople or craftspersons or tradesmen, you'll find that they don't have that college education.
I like to call blue-collar jobs necessary jobs. They're not going to go anywhere. And with a growing population as we have 309 million people in America now. It's going to be, they estimate, 400 million by 2045. That's a lot of apartment buildings. Roads and bridges and schools and hospitals and subways. Necessary things.
You know a home builder builds more than homes. He builds communities, cities, lives.
Well, let's just face it, everything in construction, it takes a lot of labor. In fact, the construction industry itself is falling behind times because of the availability of help.
I have a son who is 19 and going into the workforce. I'm not directing him toward the masonry because I'd rather see him get into more of a business career rather than laborious construction masonry type work. The reason being is because I've been through it, and I really don't think he'd enjoy it. I did it through necessity, and I'm still doing it from necessity because that's what I do. That's how I make my living.
It's really quite annoying with the press this number, press that number. Press 2. Press 3. The internet. I don't even really know how to do that. When I get on the internet, it's Comcast, I think. Yeah. And then it has a place where you can type in things. Is that what you do? Type it in there? We're losing the stone trade of shaping stone and installing it and that sort of thing. They're using different materials now that are cheaper. Well, it's just, it feels more permanent. It's a more permanent situation. There's a certain mystique or prestige about stone because it's old, it's been doing it for years and years, way before brick. And I guess also too because of the it's difficult to do. I really enjoy stonework when I have a helper to do all the labor. But when I have to do all the labor, it's not that fun. You get an experienced guy that knows what he's doing, then they want more money, then it costs more to do the job. If you can keep your labor costs down, then you can make money. So in order to keep your labor costs down, you get unexperienced laborers, because after all, labor, is, if they could teach monkeys how to do it, then monkeys would be doing it.
Not just any 60-year-old can do that, you know. I don't know, in the past, the construction workers weren't that refined, I guess. You know, they're kind of rough around the edges. And I think you're going to get a higher class of people doing the work, because the work is getting more technical. The young men nowadays don't want to work, hard work, like what I do. They want, which you can't blame them, they want to be office bound, some sort of computer work or something that isn't as physical and dirty, because this is a dirty, physical, dirty job. But somebody's got to do it.
I like the building, you know. I think like working hard like that and physical, you know, keeps you alive, you know. I've seen so many people work 50, 60 years and then they stop working and just die. You know, it's like I think they're dying of boredom. You know, like people like me, we can't like just sit in an office. You know, I'd rather build the office. I can't just sit there. A lot of kids nowadays in school don't say, hey, I want to be a carpenter and build things. You know, it's a computer age. But I tell you right now, I don't think they're ever going to have a computer come out here and do what I do. It's a hands-on job. You know, the carpenters are getting older, and I don't see as many young ones as I used to, because a lot of the younger kids in this computer age would rather have a desk job or something like that, working on some computer or building some video game system than come out here and do this kind of work, because no matter how good a carpenter you are, there's a lot of labor involved in it, period. You're going to be working. I mean, you always hear about the mayor or the governor talking about making better neighborhoods, and, well, I'm a part of that. A small part, but a part. Just one more guy out here. Well, I mean, I'm one of the people, you know, I was born and raised in Baltimore, and, you know, I care about the city. My trade, being a carpenter, you know, it's more than just, you know, plywood and nails to me, you know, because if you can build a neighborhood and make it nicer, then you're making your city a little bit nicer. Look how big, notice how big these houses are. 3 stories high, they're huge. The living space is unreal, but they're all boarded up. This particular neighborhood right here on North Avenue is invested with drugs and a lot of crime. And because of that, people don't want to live here or buy this property. But if somebody was smart and would buy this property, I think one day they'd make a lot of money off of this property. Look at these homes. These are the kind of homes in Baltimore. Look how beautifully big they are and the different shapes they are. And I love how the corners have the big round tops and things like that. They're really beautiful. It's a shame to see them all boarded up like this. Being a carpenter created something that was never there. And now, you know, 50 years from now, it will be there. You know what I mean? And somebody else would be tearing that down and rebuilding it. You know, that's cool. That's what I like, you know. My little part of the city, you know. Something I added to it. That's going to be there, you know, after I'm gone. You know, somebody along the way will come tear it down and build it again. Because the city's always going to be here, you know, I hope anyway. So, just keep rebuilding it. This part of Federal Hill was actually desolate. There wasn't a lot of people living here. It was considered to be a neighborhood that was like, you know, poor people living here. And then we got a football team. We got a football team in Baltimore, the Ravens, and they built a stadium. And when they built the stadium, which is maybe not even a mile from here, this entire neighborhood in Federal Hill was rebuilt. This is what a football team did for our city and for the carpenters around here, electricians and plumbers. it sprouted a lot of work up here in inner city, especially Federal Hill. Ever since the recession, building slowed down because property values going down. Houses aren't selling. If houses don't sell, then that takes a lot of work from me. But on the worst side of it, people don't even want to improve on their houses because they want to keep their money. With the recession hit, people, instead of spending $10,000 on addition, they're worried about, are they going to have money next year to pay their bills? So that cut into the pockets of a lot of carpenters, electricians, plumbers, and tradespeople in the city. You know what I mean? It's hurting me bad right now, and it's hurt a lot of my friends bad. Some people even lose their homes. I know that it's going to get better. That's the way everything is. It all cycles.
The scariest thing about aging for me is just not to be able to get around to do things. I've had both my knees replaced, and they feel great. Successful operation. But if I wasn't able to walk around, I'm sure I would figure out how to have fun and how to do stuff without even my legs. Hell, I'd do plumbing in a wheelchair probably. I do everything for myself, and I'm a bachelor, and the thought of being waited on by other people, it is not appealing. Because for one thing, they would never do everything right. It would drive me crazy. Actually, I've been giving my nephews and nieces money since they knew what money was. I said, this is from Uncle Fish, but remember, you're gonna change my diapers when I'm old. Right? Yeah, sure. And they grab the money. Or you change my diapers, or you put the pillow on me when I just get too crazy and stuff. So I have a deal with all my nephews and nieces. I think 12 of them. So somebody will do me. Hello, Miss Vucci. This is Chris Jensen of Jensen Plumbing Service. Could come out today and snake your drain. Let me see a utility knife. When I was a kid, my Uncle Jack, who is like one of my heroes, well, Uncle Jack was an artist, and he also owned an art gallery. And Uncle Jack could see that, well, I loved art, and he saw that I had some talent, but he told me, Chris, don't get into art. Become an electrician or a carpenter or plumber or something. So I kind of listened to him. He said, there's no money in it. And so I kind of never went into the art stuff. I just always enjoyed doing it. So I just like young people do for that first 20 years, trying to find a job that was cool, that you liked. And for me to have turned into a plumber just answered a lot of problems. I didn't love it. In fact, I have to admit I was kind of trying to get out of it from the day I started getting into it, because it's hard work. Whoa.
The construction industry is comprised of three sectors. General contractors build residential, industrial, and commercial structures. They are the constructors of buildings. Heavy and civil engineering constructor contractors build sewers, roads, highways, tunnels, and bridges. They are the constructors of the nation's public infrastructure. The third sector in the construction industry is the specialized trade contractors, who perform a variety of specialized duties related to all aspects of construction. They include carpenters, painters, plumbers, electricians, and masons. In 2008, there were 7.2 million wage and salary jobs and 1.8 million self-employed construction workers in the United States, making it in the aggregate one of the largest industrial workforces. Small businesses have dominated. There are roughly 884,000 construction establishments, and of those, 68% employ fewer than 5 employees, proving that the American construction industry provides more opportunities than other industries for individuals to own their own business.
How is the local housing situation?
Well, frankly, it's a little tight at the moment.
That's disappointing.
But since the credit crisis and recession in December of 2007, the construction industry has been adversely affected. New building development dropped precipitously as many new projects lost their funding. In 2010, the unemployment level in the construction industry was 17%, and it has long been understood that construction is one of the most susceptible sectors to the boom and bust nature of the American economy.
Only to face a vertical drop of 90 feet. 1928 was a good building year. Almost $3 billion worth of new residential construction saw the light of day. But in 1929, even before the Depression became general, building dropped off to slightly under $2 billion. Year after year throughout the Depression, this decline continued. Each succeeding drop meaning thousands more men laid off in the building and allied industries.
We have waged this war on at least 4 fronts, certainly in Hollywood. The way we portray working people on TV, it's laughable. If there's a plumber, he's 300 pounds and he's got a giant butt crack, admit it. You've seen him all the time. That's what plumbers look like, right? We turn them into heroes or we turn them into punchlines. We've waged this war on Madison Avenue. I mean, so many of the commercials that come out there in the way of a message, what's really being said? Your life would be better if you could work a little less, if you didn't have to work so hard, if you could get home a little earlier, if you could retire a little faster, if you could punch out a little sooner. It's all in there, over and over again and again. Washington, I can't even begin to talk about the deals and policies in place that affect the bottom line reality of the available jobs, because I don't really know. I just know that that's a front in this war. And right here, guys, Silicon Valley. I mean, how many people have an iPhone on them right now? How many people have their Blackberries on? We're plugged in, we're connected. I would never suggest for a second that something bad has come out of the tech revolution. Good grief, not to this crowd.
Out of every 100, only 13 workers have jobs based entirely on mental skills, or which require them to work with their minds alone. Only 18 out of every 100 have jobs based on manual skills, in which they work mainly with their hands. All these that are left, or 69 out of every 100, do work requiring that the hand and mind be trained together for perfect coordination. You will probably be one of the 69, for perfect coordination is necessary for the dentist, the typist, the industrial worker, the homemaker, in fact, for almost everyone.
There's a perception that if people do working class work, they're not as sharp as the person with the white collar doing the white collar work. Now, I'm not saying everybody holds that perception, not at all, but it is in the cultural air we breathe. To get in close to it, to really spend time with craftspersons, with tradespeople, service workers, when they're doing their work well, you just get such a strong sense of how much skill and thought goes into the work.
I was a musician before this and got tired of being really poor and just started working on the house, and people started asking me to do stuff and just really started to enjoy it and kept doing it. But it seems like a lot of people don't even know how to use a hammer or a screwdriver anymore. Like just a basic kind of thing, you know.
The ability to take knowledge and apply it is, I think, a huge indication of a high level of learning. You want somebody who's incorporated knowledge and then brings it out into the world to solve problems, to figure things out, to make a difference, to make an imprint of some kind. And that's what tradespeople do, right? It's that application of knowledge that I think is so important and so impressive to me.
But there's a ton of detail in this stuff. Like the radiator goes here, and of course you have to have heat in every room because it's radiator heat. And I have to build this floor pretty much level with what's existing, because otherwise the radiator won't, you know, the valve won't fit in properly. Just, there's a million things like that that you have to consider. A lot of it's just, like I said, figuring out how to make it work, you know. When you encounter something that you can hardly ever find in books or anything like that, you just have to find a way where it looks good and it's, you know, built well.
One of the things that I find with students, they haven't been turned on to abstract or systemic thinking. If you're a plumber and you don't understand systemic thinking, you're in trouble. Because how does this element relate to this element, relate to that element? Because your house, your plumbing is a system. So in some ways, these guys and gals are beyond people with their degrees or whatnot.
Bingo. You have to reinvent things every day and be able to, like, there's all these problems that come up, and you have to be able to quickly, you have to be able to solve them and come up with something new, which is a part of the job that I love. You know, it's different every day. You know, it may be just hooking up a sink, but usually there's something different, there's something going wrong or whatever, where we have to modify and come up with some sort of an idea to make this thing look good and work good. I love doing kitchens. And hopefully, in about a half an hour or so, this will be beautiful too.
We tend to we'll judge people's intelligence by how articulate they are. And again, I think if somebody's very articulate, we can assume some kind of verbal facility, right? But what about all the folks who just don't feel comfortable expressing themselves orally, or are shy, or are people of few words? You know, I grew up with a lot of folks like that. But you know, you watch them do certain kinds of work, and you're just stunned at the quality of intelligence.
I've had a lot of carpenters that I've worked with over the years told me that I was blessed with vision. And what they mean by that is I was blessed with being able to see what it's going to look like before it's done. Because in my brain, if I can't see it done, how can I build it? A lot of carpenters need blueprints. A lot of carpenters, you know, have to see it on paper to be able to build it. Me, I see it in my head. Real consistent.
Just to be able to have a dexterity for it, a feeling, I mean, you get a feel for it. You can definitely lose yourself and just kind of be in another world, enjoying what you're doing. And I think you could do the same thing with any trade that you have to have a feel for. Because once you reach that feeling, you can just stay there. And when I say feel, it's a feeling inside and the feel in the hands, you know.
Obviously, carpentry involves a lot of mathematics, and it involves, too, the developing of a sense of mathematical qualities, an eye for it, like symmetry and proportion and the qualities of angles, right? Good carpenters can just look at something and know if it's right or wrong. There's lots of problem solving that goes on, lots of troubleshooting.
That's it, I'll take that. It takes years to become a real carpenter. You know, somebody can really do something with their hands. You know, I can walk past a lot of buildings downtown. I walk past garages and things, and it might be done, but I see the skeleton on how they did it.
So there's aesthetic stuff, mechanical stuff going on all simultaneously in his mind. These are the kinds of remarkable skills that you see in play when somebody's a good carpenter.
So no matter what, you just want it where the split is, right? Yeah. Like right here off this block across.
Yeah, might as well just put it right underneath and we'll take it off later.
Sound like a plan? Okay, give me something 37 and a half or 38 inches, be fine.
You know, historically, blue collar came from in the 40s in the factories. That's where the term came from, that they would wear a blue uniform because the dust wouldn't show up as much.
It was industrialization that really allowed for the middle class to emerge in the United States of America, if you're honest about it. If you look at the history and the facts, a lot of it had to do with unions, too. And what are the stereotypes? A lot of tradespeople, they come out of union base, right? And what are the stereotypes about unions today?
We in the CIO want industrial peace. But if big business wants to take America for a ride again, we intend to fight.
Well, it was the union that gave us the 8-hour workday. It was the union that gave us safety in the workplace, that we could live for another day's work. And it was the union that gave us the benefits for health care and for pensions. And it was the unions, generally, that allowed for that working class to have those things so that they then could send their kids to college.
Yeah, so it's an interesting thing, right? At the beginning of the 20th century, as you had a significant increase in the number of people who were entering school, huge waves of immigration, for example. One of the ways that educators at the time tried to address this huge influx of people was to create these giant comprehensive, what they're called comprehensive high schools. And they figured that one way that they could deal with this influx of people is to create these different tracks, curricular tracks. And so based on some kind of a test or some kind of an assessment that was made, some folks would be channeled into an academic track, and that would prepare them to go to college. And then there'd be a sort of broad general track, and then there'd be a vocational track, and that would be for folks who probably didn't score so well on those tests, whatever they were, IQ tests or whatnot. And those folks would be given a kind of strictly vocational, meaning physical vocation curriculum. But there were these rigid distinctions that were made, and kids were tracked based on these assumptions about kinds of mental activity and kinds of work. And no big surprise, given another undemocratic strain in the culture, the kids who were tracked into the vocational track tended to be poor kids, minority kids, immigrant kids. The kids who were tracked into the academic track tended to be more middle class and upper middle class kids, white, mainstream children. So it's been a complicated and difficult history that plays out in our schools. Now, in the last 15, 20 years, there's been a lot of attempt to rethink that whole tracking business, to do away with it, to think of other ways to address the variety of needs and interests that kids bring to school.
No one can work without tools. I'm all for giving the schools the best that can be had.
Everyone's aware now we have a housing bubble. I feel we have an education bubble in this country. I mean, you could go to any major intersection or any downtown and shut your eyes and throw a tennis ball, and whoever you hit has probably got a degree. I have 5 children, and when I would take them when I would go with them to PTA meetings at the school, I would hear that they positively had to go to college, Mr. Lamacchia. They simply won't make it. And sure, if they want to go off and play with wrenches someday as an alternative, and I didn't like that.
If you're probably a kid or a young person getting ready to go to college, and you say to your parents, oh, I want to be a plumber, well, what do you imagine those parents saying? Because we've been socialized, I imagine, oh my God, no, you can't be, you have to go to college, you have to get a decent, you have to do better than me, you can't work with your hands, you have to work with your mind.
But a lot of the kids were sold a bill of goods that Go get that 4-year degree and you're guaranteed $150,000. I mean, everyone knows that. No.
In 2007, 40% of all U.S. adults between the ages of 25 and 64 had a college degree. Among 2008 bachelor's degree recipients, about 2/3 graduated with student debt, and 25% of these had borrowed $30,500 or more. In other words, about 17% of all 4-year college graduates were in this high debt category, with students from middle-class families more likely than lower or higher income students to accrue as much as $30,500 in debt. 39% of all debt holders have loans that are unmanageable, meaning they exceed 8% of the pre-tax yearly income. In the past decade, the inflation-adjusted median household income has dropped 4.8%, but college tuition costs continue to rise. Disproportional inflation refers to inflation in a particular sector that is substantially greater than the inflation of the general cost of living. Between the years of 1989 through 2005, the college tuition inflation rate was on average 5.94%, while general inflation was 2.99%. In 2009, the average tuition at a 4-year public college climbed 6.5% to $7,020. At private colleges, tuition rose 4.4% to $26,273. The news isn't all bad. The estimated net price, what the average student actually pays after financial aid is taken into account, is still much lower than the list price. A public 4-year college costs about $1,620, and a private 4-year college costs under $12,000. The Department of Education provides $30 billion a year on subsidies for higher education. Federal aid for higher education soared from $10 billion in fiscal 2000 to $30 billion in fiscal 2008. One major problem with federal subsidies for higher education is they invariably favor people who earn higher than average incomes during their careers. In essence, it is imposing a tax on the blue-collar workers who typically do not attend college to assist in paying for the tuitions of future white-collar professionals.
Look, we have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Sure, if they can really reduce our costs, but that's a mighty big if.
In 2009, 19.7% of those who earned a diploma found a job, compared with 51% in 2007. Total U.S. college and university enrollment increased by 48% between 1986 and 2006. But have those enrollment increases been an entirely good thing for a majority of the population whose wages are stagnant? In 1961, the average full-time student at a 4-year college in the United States studied about 24 hours per week, while his modern counterpart puts in only 14 hours per week. Additionally, the 6-year graduation rate for bachelor students is only about 56%.
But not everyone can do desk to blackboard. A lot of us can't. And I like to tell people that we need to hit it, bang it, smash it, smell it, see it. That's how we learn.
It's a 5-year apprenticeship program. You work for our contractors. We have 100 contractors that use us exclusively. And you'd be going to work during the day and to school at night, because every day he's going to be stimulated and he's going to learn something new. Then when he comes to school, we're going to throw a lot at him. We're going to throw a lot of math and science, as well as the new technologies, to show him what's out there and what's expected of him.
Even for a welder today, it's important that he has the basic electricity.
It's one thing to just learn something, but unless you go out there and apply it and try what you learned, it's probably not going to stick.
Try telling a child, for example, that a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. Well, when you ask him next Friday on the quiz, he'll tell you that a caterpillar turns into a butterfly, but the chances are he doesn't know what he's saying and doesn't really understand the process.
The difference between memorizing a body of knowledge, maybe even being able to respond on a test and demonstrate that you have memorized it. The difference between that and then being able to use it to solve a problem is a kind of classic distinction, I think, that's made in education. The great American philosopher John Dewey was very distressed about the way that schooling would tend toward the memorizing, tend toward the focus on the textbook, tend toward the giving back of knowledge that's memorized on a test, and then that's the end of the story.
What they're giving me is free training. I'm learning to do things. It's what Jim was talking about earlier. I'm putting tools in my educational toolbox, and it's free. And that's invaluable because if something, God forbid, if something does happen to unions or to a company I'm working for and I'm unemployed, or if the economy is bad and I'm unemployed, the skills is what's going to make me marketable. Not I had this job and I was making so-and-so dollars an hour. What they teach me is more valuable than the job that they offer me.
It's been more than just a job for me. It's been a way of life. You can see I truly enjoy working with these guys. I enjoy being able to give them the gift. That's the only way it will work in our organization. If you bring the young guys up to make more money than you and have better skills than you, the old days of not telling the young guy everything because he would take your job are long gone. It's every advantage for me to train these guys to be smarter, better, harder workers than me, so they can pay into our pension plan, which I'll live the lifestyle that I want on their back like the ones before us lived it on mine. So it's every advantage to train these guys to be the best of the best. We put a percentage of our money into a training fund, which is the International Training Fund. Years ago, it was a nickel fund. Every man was putting a nickel into that fund. Today, it's a dime. You get 300,000 members in the United States and Canada putting a dime of every hour they work into a fund. You can afford the best training in the world. You guys are familiar with the medical gas trainer. Yeah. And these are your flow meters for breathable air, medical air, or oxygen.
It's, I think it's getting to the point where it's embarrassing that I call them the coat and ties. They don't believe in the trades anymore. They think everything's just going to come up out of the ground by itself. They've totally disregarded the building aspect and the industrial base, what goes on here in the United States. Fortunately, organizations like ours, we believe in it pretty hard. And we're doing everything we can to make sure that people learn these skills. Without those basic skills, nothing's going to get built. Nobody's prepared anymore. The education system has said, we don't need it. Somebody else will do it.
We found that little boy. It's pretty good.
This isn't Grandpa's factory floor where you can go from senior year and go into a factory in America. You need to learn.
Today, the job of building this nation geographically is completed. There are no new frontiers within our borders. To what new horizons can we look now? Where are tomorrow's opportunities? What's ahead in America for you, for your children?
Everything's pointing to the blue-collar worker. Baby boomers are retiring. The greening of America, I mean, 39 billion is in the stimulus plan, Obama's stimulus plan, for the greening of America. 61 billion for roads, bridges, and rails. We're gonna do it now. This is a renaissance. Wouldn't a parent love their child to be a part of that? The plumber puts in a low flush toilet. The electrician puts the solar panels on the roof.
One of the things that makes us unique as a remodeling company is our dedication to sustainable building practices or green building. The very essence of remodeling is green in and of itself. I mean, we come in and we're reusing an existing space. We're not new home builders, and we don't do any new home construction for that very reason. We like to come in, take an existing space, remodel it, and make it better. One of the best things that I've found about doing this type of work is being able to do the research, to go and find something new in a trade journal, hear about it from a supplier or a trade show, or find it on the internet, and then to be able to go out into the field and actually put it into use and see how it holds up, and experiment with it, and produce a much higher quality level of building than if we hadn't done the research in the first place. And we like to keep a stock of some of the sustainable materials that we've used in the past. Just as an example, this is a countertop that we put in a kitchen, and it's made by the Freeform company, and it's actually produced from recycled milk jugs. So you've got some wild and crazy patterns and some more conservative patterns, but basically all the milk jugs are melted down, and it's a very sustainable material. It can be cut and shaped just like wood. And another product that we've been using is called a TPO, or a white roof membrane. And what's great about this stuff is it's really mimicking building practices in the Mediterranean region. So where the houses are painted white and you have a white roof that's going to reflect the sun. And in this climate in Baltimore, where we get incredibly hot and humid and muggy summers, I mean, having something like this on your roof makes a huge difference. We just did an addition where we put this on the roof and combined it with spray foam, and I think it was a 90-degree day, and without any air conditioning on, it was still comfortable up on the 3rd floor of the addition. So it really makes a difference. Here's an example of the spray foam. As you can see, it's a hard foam. It's sprayed in on the wall and then kind of congeals and hardens, and it covers up every single gap.
Being a craftsman involves a lot of your time is actually taking pride in making sure that these things don't fall apart, that these things don't need to be replaced in 10 years.
We have, not only emotionally, time, we're invested in the project. We don't feel comfortable taking the easier way out. We like that. That's what makes us proud.
Could be done by 2 and home with the kids.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah.
A little bit of pride in your work, and you stay the extra mile.
Extra effort. I believe now, whether the homeowner is looking long-term or not, codes are looking long-term.
So our company just went through the recession, and we're fine. We were busy as ever. People were amazed we were working 6 days a week. And I think with the new progressive way that, like Derek said, the codes are thinking, the local government, trying to make things more energy efficient, I think that per code, a lot more guys are going to have to start investing their time in learning how to do this stuff, because in the end, hopefully, it's going to make a turn and all local contractors are going to have to abide by it. And, I think it'll put a lot of guys back to work.
We're at Second Chance today, and we are picking up 2x4s, 2x6s, and 2x8s to use for an addition that we're doing up the street in this neighborhood. This is wood that has been deconstructed and cleaned up, removed from another project, and we're going to breathe new life into it and create a new structure.
Look at the lifespan of a piece of wood. This wood could be, 20 years old, and we're going to reuse it. And it's going to be perfectly fine. It'll be just as good as a brand new piece of yellow pine. It's going to It's going to keep on living. That's what trees like to do.
I think now it's more about quality instead of quantity. You know, it's like a micro brew versus a Budweiser. So I think that people who are good learners and who are open to new ideas and are excited by changes in the industry rather than being threatened by changes, I think those people are going to succeed in the future building industry.
It's nice to know what you're doing and be ahead of the curve as far as the knowledge of what you're working on. And it would be a shame to be stuck in the old realm of building, mainly because we've seen it fail so many times with just a lot of remodels and deconstructing things. We realize where things have failed. It's nice, you know, as far as education-wise, I enjoy it. Mainly just to be ahead.
If we can see this differently, that opens up a whole nother domain of work. I mean, when they talk about, you know, unemployment being in the double digits, right? And that, oh, it's going to get better. How's it going to get better? Those manufacturing jobs are gone. They're not coming back to the United States. So, I mean, how are we going to get these jobs back? And I think this whole idea of going green is a great way of how we can not get the jobs back, but create functional, realistic jobs. And if our attitudes don't change about craft people, about tradesmen, then that's not going to be useful in that shift.
You know, at the end of the day, being able to go home and say, man, we really knocked it out today. We really did something great. And it was productive, and it's a work of art. And I hope to instill that on my kids. And I hope that people of my generation, people of my kids' generation can learn that being in the trades and doing these sort of things can be extremely fulfilling, and you can make a really great living at it. And it doesn't have to be in an office.
Brock wants to create 2.5 million jobs. The infrastructure is a huge deal. This war on work that I suppose exists has casualties like any other war. The infrastructure is the first one. Declining trade school enrollments are the second one. Every single year, fewer electricians, fewer carpenters, fewer plumbers, fewer welders, fewer pipe fitters, fewer steam fitters. The infrastructure jobs that everybody is talking about creating are those guys, the ones that have been in decline over and over. Meanwhile, we got $2 trillion at a minimum, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, that we need to expend to even make a dent in the infrastructure, which is currently rated at a D-. So if I were running for anything, and I'm not, I would simply say that the jobs we hope to make and the jobs we hope to create aren't going to stick unless they're jobs that people want. And I know the point of this conference is to celebrate things that are near and dear to us. But I also know that clean and dirty aren't opposites. They're two sides of the same coin.
You know, it's interesting. We talk every so often about the need for a national discussion about something. I think one thing we need a national discussion about is social class. And maybe hand in glove with that, we could have some kind of discussion about these various biases that play out from social class. And one of them are the attributions we make about people's intelligence. When you get in close to blue-collar and service work done well, there's just a remarkable amount of intelligence, of mental acuity on display. And I just wish we were better as a culture at acknowledging that. Because if we were, I think it would have an effect on some of the kind of schooling we create. I think it would have an effect on the way we organize work, the kinds of responsibilities we give people. And I sure think it would have an effect on some of the cultural divides that are creating such heat right now in the culture. I firmly believe that some of the kind of political and cultural tensions that emerge are because, you know, working class folk feel the disdain, I think, that some of the culture have toward them.